So we're talking about emotions in sport. And this is something that comes up a lot. We experience a whole range of different emotions, such as nerves, joy, disappointment, frustration, pride. Sometimes we experience those emotions all in the same day. And for your children that are athletes, sometimes within the same match or the same competition, within those couple of hours. And how you react as a parent in those moments makes a big difference in your child's confidence, their enjoyment, and their emotional development. So, the first point of reflection that I'd like you to think about is just ask yourself the question: how do you respond when your child feels frustrated or upset? You can insert any emotion there. So, an emotion that maybe your child sometimes finds difficult or struggles with, how do you respond? Is that something you've ever thought about yourself before? Do you always respond in the same way? And is that response helpful? So just have a think about that. And I'm going to come on to talk about athletes' experiences from the work that I've done working with young athletes, working with teenagers in particular, and what they've come to see me about. So every athlete I work with has their own individual experience. So my approach is very much tailored to their needs and what their situation is and what they're experiencing. But there is often a common thread that comes through, particularly when it comes to the emotional challenges that they face in their sport. And there's a few quotes that I've put on the slide here. That just give you an indication about how difficult it can be for them when they're trying so hard to achieve something, to work towards their goal, but then those emotions get in the way and they freeze or they crumble under the pressure. And I'm sure for you as a parent as well, that this is really hard to watch. You've probably joined this webinar because you want your child to succeed, you want the best for them, but you also experience those highs and lows that they go through, and you care about your child's well-being. So it's a great positive step that you've taken coming along today to try and understand a little bit more about how you might be able to support your athlete through these times. And I think it's important to say that every single athlete will have these kind of experiences. We all experience, like I said, a range of emotions. So even the athletes that you see on the TV, they might come across as being really calm and composed, but even they will experience anxiety at different times, especially before important competitions. But they have most likely learned the skills that they need to deal with those difficult emotions that come up. And they've learned those skills over time, whether that be by observing others or through having conversations with coaches or more experienced athletes, or even by seeking sports psychology support. But there are skills that athletes can learn, and for most of them, these are skills that are already within their locker. It's just about unpicking them and actually drawing out those resources so that they really can play to their full potential. So let's think about how, as a parent, you can support your athletes. So this brings me on to key message one, which essentially is that we need emotions. Emotions are so important for us, and not just as athletes, even just as humans, we all experience these emotions. I know I've said that already a couple of times, but that's just how important this message is. We experience excitement, nerves, frustration, joy, disappointment. But unfortunately, the world that we live in often teaches us that emotions are either good or they're bad. And this isn't very helpful because it means that we often try and push away those emotions that are seen as bad because we don't want to experience anything that's bad or unpleasant. We only want to experience those good things. But actually, we need all emotions. They serve a purpose for us. They give us information. So when we try and get rid of those emotions that are labeled as bad, there's a cost to this. The more we try and resist, the more we try and battle with our emotions, the worse things can get, the further away we get from our goals. So, what we can do instead is help athletes to learn more about their own emotions, to first of all observe them, just notice them, notice when they come up, notice what that emotion feels like, so they can learn to live with that emotion. Name it, describe it. These are things that are really helpful. And the key thing is that it's not our emotions that are the issue, it's what happens next, it's the behaviors, it's how we respond to those emotions. So we can experience emotions that feel unpleasant and feel uncomfortable, but still go out and give our best performance. And we learn to do that by getting more comfortable with these emotions, by being more aware and noticing them. So the key message here as well for you guys is that you don't need to fix emotions, you just need to support them. And I know that that can be quite difficult because as a parent, you do just want to make things better for your children. You do want to go in and fix things. But I'm just going to say that again. You don't need to fix emotions. You just need to support them. So the next message comes on to how you can go about supporting them. So this is all around listen before trying to help. So don't jump to solutions quickly. Don't make assumptions if you don't have all the information. It's really important to try and understand what might have led to your children's behavior or a poor performance that they might have had. And listening to them shows understanding. If you're watching your child play in a match or compete in an event, you've got a you've got a good idea of what's happened. You can see what's happening out there on the pitch or the court, but your child has their own experience as well of what's happening. So it's important to be curious and ask them more about their own experience, ask them more about what was going on for them, and try to avoid things like saying you're fine or stop being upset, anything where you're kind of telling your child to try and switch that emotion off, because we don't have an on off switch, and it's not simple, it's not as easy to just say stop being upset, because we can't just switch that emotion off. And sometimes that's what can make children feel worse, because they're being given an instruction that they can't do, so then they think, oh well, there must be something wrong with me, or I can't do that, what, like, this isn't good. And what's important as well is to respond consistently regardless of the outcome of the match or competition. So when they finish playing in a match, try to respond in the same way each time. Try not to ask them questions or talk to them focusing on their results, because it's really important that they understand that their value does not depend on their results. I was working with a child last year. He was quite a bit younger than a teenager, but there was just one thing that really stood out for me. And whenever he was a tennis player, whenever he didn't play so well, he actually turned around to his parents and said, "Do you still love me?" And we need to make sure that we're not showing our children that our love only depends on them getting a good result or putting in a good performance or achieving a certain score line. So a couple of things here that could be helpful in trying to do that. I've mentioned about being curious and asking questions. So these questions on the left are questions that you can ask regardless of what has happened within an event, a competition, or a match. What did you enjoy? What part felt hardest for you? If you did see something happen that perhaps looks like your child struggled, ask them, how did you feel when that happened? How do you think you played? And on the right hand side, the unhelpful things, like I said, anything that's attached to the scoreline or the result or the outcome, try not to ask that immediately anyway. If you start by asking those questions on the left, you're probably going to get that information eventually anyway. So that first question is probably one that you'd ask more so if you weren't actually at the match itself and they come home. I've heard lots of athletes say, that's the first thing I get asked. How many goals did you score? How many runs did you score? Try and leave that until the end or not at all if possible, because like I said, you'll probably find out anyway. And then again, some more unhelpful phrases around trying to control our emotions. When we're saying, don't get upset, calm down, get over it, these these are not very helpful because it's not providing the athletes with practical things that they can actually do in that moment. We're just kind of throwing out these phrases and they don't know how to follow those instructions. So the reflection point here is um, just to think about how do you know what helps your child when they're feeling a certain way. So again, you can insert any emotion there. How do you know what helps them? Do you know what helps them? Have you tried different things? So just again, take a moment to reflect on that question there and maybe continue these reflections after we've finished. And then coming on to the key message 3, you can actually ask them. So ask what support they need. Have that conversation with them. Ask them about what support they want at different times. What's helpful before a match? What's helpful afterwards? What's helpful when we're in the car on the way home? Now, I know it's not as simple as that. And you might be thinking, well, if I ask them, they're just going to say, I don't know, or they're just going to shrug their shoulders and say, oh, or not even answer. But it's important to keep revisiting this conversation, maybe try different ways, try to reframe the question in different ways, try using different environments. So it might be about asking them when they're in the car and you've sat with them side by side and they don't have to make eye contact with you. So try and have that conversation at a time where they feel comfortable to talk about it and open up. But it's really key that the two of you are aligned, that you're doing something that actually helps your child, because they won't always tell you when something's not helpful. They'll probably just get a bit annoyed with it and hold that in. And the important thing to remember is that every single child is different in what they need. So some children might want a hug, some of them might want reassurance, some of them might just want some time to process or just time by themselves. Some of them might just want you to listen. So it's going to be different. So if you've got more than one child, it might be that your son wants a hug from you and your daughter wants you to just listen. It might also change as they get older as well. So at age 13, they might say, yeah, I want you to hug me after a match and just, comfort me. But then by age 15, they might be like, no way, don't you dare hug me when I come off the pitch. So just revisit that conversation as and when is needed. Make sure that you've got that understanding of what support they need. Like have that conversation with them. So the take home message here is all around helping your athlete to build awareness and autonomy, because when they feel in control, when they feel like they've got a choice in the matter, they've got a say in it, then they're going to find it a lot easier to cope and also a lot easier to share things with you, to share how they're feeling with you. And that self-awareness is also really important, because the more they become aware of their own emotions, the easier it is for them to understand how they can deal with them. That's when they can start to unlock the skills and resources that they already have by building up that awareness. So just to summarize, so the 3 key messages we've got are: normalize emotions. We need all of our emotions. They are there to help us. We don't need to push them away. Listen first. Try and be curious, ask those questions, and stay consistent with how you respond when after your child has played in a match or a competition. And then third, ask what support your child needs. have that conversation with them so that they get that autonomy.